Now you take someone like a leader who says something like you're talking about, you get these mouth breathers out there who all of a sudden they take that as license to aggress against Muslims. Or you take Democrats now who are saying he's a threat to democracy. And
Oh, it's literally the whole country would do that, right? And we even did a show here. We put families back together that were fighting about Republicans and half the families Republican, half the families Democrat, et cetera. And because of Trump and everything else, they hate each other, and we bring them back together and remember their humanity and the bonds that they share, et cetera.
What's up, everyone? In this intense exchange, Dr. Phil takes Ana Kasparian and Cenk head on, exposing the double standards and hypocrisy in their arguments. So let's get into this argument.
It does get hard. Here, I'll give you an example. So I'm atheist now, but I'm born Muslim, my family's Muslim, my background's Muslim. So Trump says, I want a total and complete shutdown on Muslims entering the country during the 2016 campaign, right? Put aside the travel ban he eventually did. I don't need to get into the policy of that, but he says that, right? And then his fans say, yes, we should ban all Muslims from the country. Now, how am I supposed to react to that? Am I supposed to say, well, I love you as a human being. Yeah, go ahead and ban me, right? Like I can't say that. They're forcing me into a fight. Do you see what I'm saying? So what does somebody do in a situation like that, where it gets real hard?
You know, I think obviously that is an extreme, unrealistic and sustainable position. And I think when politicians take extreme positions, they have to be called on it, right? They have to be called on it. And I think saying it is one thing, doing it is another. And the problem I have with either side using this heated rhetoric is there are people that are followers that will take that lead and behave accordingly. Like, for example, in 21 years, I have never said, if you've got a child and they're running into traffic, I've never even said you should suppress the behavior by just swatting them and saying, no, don't do that.
Dr. Phil makes a powerful point about restraint, drawing a line between discipline and irresponsibility. He's showing that while he has a platform and authority, and he's careful not to promote anything that could actually lead to abuse or harm if misinterpreted. This is a direct challenge to Ana and Cenk's lack of caution in how they communicate, suggesting that they're more interested in sensational reactions than any real responsibility towards their audience. And Dr. Phil saying that, unlike him, he considers the real life impact of his words.
Which I would never even say that. And half the country is spare the rod, spoil the child, and half of the country is you don't spank your children. And I can't say you wouldn't even spank their hand if they were getting ready to touch a hot stove. And I'll tell you why. Because there are enough mouth breathers out there in the country that would take what I said and say, well, Dr. Phil says it's okay to hit your kids. And they would abuse their children, taking what I said out of context, amplifying it, and using it as justification to abuse their children. Now you take someone like a leader who says something like you're talking about, you get these mouth breathers out there who all of a sudden they take that as license to aggress against Muslims. Or you take Democrats now who are saying he's a threat to democracy and he's had 2 assassination attempts. Both sides need to tone down the rhetoric.
People like us do our jobs, right? So like when we talk about what happened in 2020 and 2021, when we talk about the fake elector scheme, January 6th, I mean, that was an attempt to assault our democracy. And I think it's important to report the truth without unnecessary language to rile people up. But right now, I think one of the problems I'm having is that people are trying to argue that simply discussing the reality of what happened following the 2020 election is literally putting Donald Trump's life at risk. And I don't believe that to be true.
Well, I don't either.
Yeah.
I don't either, but there is heated rhetoric that I think could contribute to these unhooked people out there
Like calling Trump Hitler over and over again.
Yeah.
Here, Dr. Phil doesn't mince words. He's pointing out the absurdity of calling Trump Hitler repeatedly. Such exaggerated comparisons. They feel real anger and provoke reactions from extremists, and it's a massive flaw in Ana and Cenk's approach. They downplay how irresponsible rhetoric can snowball, leading to dangerous acts by the unhinged. And Dr. Phil's right on target. Their defense, weak.
Like
I
that,
mean,
yeah.
then you get somebody that takes that and acts on it. That's not the responsibility of the Democratic Party. That's the responsibility of the person that picked up the rifle and got on the roof and took the shots. That's not the responsibility. But we, as broadcasters and political leaders, need to recognize, hey, people, that's why I say don't spank your children. I recognize there are those out there that will overreact to that. We have to be responsible. If I'm reporting a show about suicide, I never show how they did it. I never show the memorial services because there are responsible ways to report those things so you don't have a contagion effect with some teen who says, oh, I wish they'd have that kind of thing for me. And so there is a demonstrated contagion effect. So I refuse to show that. I won't show how it happened because would I be responsible for somebody killing themselves? No, but I am aware of the contagion effect, and so I have to be a responsible broadcaster.
Yeah, so
This opinion hits the core of Dr. Phil's philosophy. Unlike Ana and Cenk, who are often willing to let inflammatory statements slide, Dr. Phil stands on the ground of responsibility. He's saying, hey, my job is to report with care without causing harm. It's a direct shot at Cenk and Ana's approach, which he's exposing as reckless.
I think we agree on a good transition to media. And
the things I regret are the things usually that I didn't say. I'll watch something back and I'll get distracted. Somebody will use a term that's derogatory towards somebody, and it's usually some young person or something, and they'll refer to somebody that's got mental challenges or some way, and they'll use the R word referring to them or something. And I'm thinking, I'm going to call them on that. And about that time, the mom or something will say something, and I have to respond to that. And then the next thing, we got to go to break. And I realize I never went back and called them on that. And I'm going, oh my God. And then it airs, and I go, it's like I let that go by, and it's a kind of an endorsement, implicit endorsement of it. And you know, I hate that, or I miss something, and I always grade my own paper really hard about that. And the thing that I always worry about are people misunderstanding things out of context. Like I'll see stuff. We do domestic violence stories.
Dr. Phil takes a hard stance on how to handle sensitive issues responsibly, particularly around the topics like domestic violence. He's saying that he doesn't sensationalize these stories or give them simplistic answers, as that would be harmful. And it's a direct contrast to Ana and Cenk's approach, where they often take complex issues and boil them down for a dramatic effect, and that has severe consequences.
A lot, because Robin's a real ambassador in the fight against domestic violence. And I hear people talking about, well, why doesn't she just leave? Why doesn't she just leave? You know, she wants it or she'd be gone. And I'm thinking, you know, people don't understand everything that goes. People ask me sometimes, do you think problems are as simple as you make them out to be? I don't think problems are simple at all. I think they're complex. I think they're layered. I think they have a lot of moving parts. Sometimes the solutions are very simple, but the problems are very complex. And I see people saying, well, why didn't she just leave? Well, you know what? There's two things you don't want to do. You don't ever want to confront an abuser, and you don't want to leave without a really good safety plan in place.
Right.
And because if you don't have that, don't have a place to go, you don't have your documents, you don't have this, you don't have that, close to 80% of serious injuries and murders happen when you leave your abuser.
Wow.
Because that's when they panic and ratchet up their attempts to control, and that's when they kill their partner and stuff. So I always really strive to make people understand the complexities of some things, you know.
I'd love to hear your guys' opinion down in the comments below. Let me know your thoughts about the arguments in both sides. Always love to hear other people's opinion. And if you can, give me a like and subscribe. Really helps out the channel, and we'll see you guys in the next one.